Fair Play Projects.
Now that you have all of your pieces cut out, you're ready to start sewing together your garment. Your first step is to sew together your center back seam. Before we do that, what we'll need to do is prepare our back pieces. So here I've got my two back pieces, and what I've done to prepare them is I've done a zigzag stitch along all of their straight edges. The zigzag stitch helps prevent the fabric from fraying later on once it's assembled. So you'll see I zigzag down the center back, along the shoulders, and along the two side seams. And zigzagging down here, I wanted to make sure that I could see my notches that I put at that center back. So I just extended my markings a little bit further out so I make sure to see those. And now to put these together, what you'll want to do is stack them with their right sides together, matching up that center back. And you'll know that they're matched up. You want to match up that notch there. And that's where we're going to begin our seam line. So I'm going to put a pin right there. It's a double reminder. And just pin it along. So now we've got our center back seam sewn, and I've pressed back the seam allowance on either side. So you've got your 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I've pressed it back so that it comes up even up in the unsewn spot at the top, reaching up to the neckline. And you just want to follow your seam line and press it. So you've got a 1/2 inch fold on either side. And now what we'll do is sew along with an edge stitch on either side of that seam line, and that's going to hold the seam allowance down and make a nice clean finish on the back. All right, so I'm going to do an edge stitch along this back seam. And what I like to do for my edge stitching on this particular seam, I've got a standard sewing foot on here, which leaves a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch on either side. And I've just been lining up the edge of my foot with that fold line of the fabric at the top here, and then the seam line of the back seam at the bottom. And you're probably about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric here. And I'm going to sew down. I'll start my seam with a back stitch and then just follow this line all the way down the back. And see, if I just run my foot right along that seam, I get a nice straight edge all the way down the back, and then I'll follow the same line on the other end. Okay, I've sewn down my two seam allowances on either side of my back piece now. You see right along the edge. You can kind of hit it under the zigzag there, but we've got two nice straight lines. And I'm going to show you how that looks on the right side of the fabric too. It's got a really nice, neat finish, and it's going to keep the seam allowance from popping up and keep a nice flat back.